Hello again, Drum Boy reads slow here with a special video today. Gonna be trying something new. I'm normally with the comics. I'm normally trying to do a big sequential read to give my viewers an idea of a current run and a current ongoing. If it's quality, as an overall experience, reading them back to back, or if it's just not really worth it, and the issues don't really link up. You get the gist. But I've run into a pair of publishers, and today I'm going to be highlighting one of them. But before I get into that, we want to me what this channel is supposed to be about here in its infancy, the message about comics. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they worth your time? The ultimate message isn't to sit here and play with numbers and try to play the ultimate judge of everyone's artwork. The idea is to inspire you to experience that artwork for yourself, to form your own opinion, and to put value back in this beautiful art form. It really is an art form, and it should be more prominent in people's lives, in my opinion. And that's, and we're getting into other stuff, not just comics, graphic novels, or the written word, the expression through writing and art, but also, art in general. I've pressed a little bit in my first musical review about the importance of seeing a proof of concept through, and staying true and integral to a vision, not modernizing, and I think we're seeing a bit of that in comic books. The audience, I definitely hear a call for days of old, and the feeling of old, and less modernizing, and less trying to normalize every trending topic in real life, and keep it as an escape from real life. And why this particular spotlight really hits for me today is because we're featuring a publisher called DSTLRY, DSTLRY, all caps. And I passed these books over initially when I first encountered them, while kind of getting back into comics as an old fart. And what I can say is I was overwhelmed with all the stimulation of all the possible titles, and I was still, I was initially trying to, it always starts small. You always try to keep it to 5 or 6 or 7 titles, and it started to press upon me that maybe this was something I was supposed to be doing. That maybe this was, me taking care of me, and I just let myself, fall into the modern comic output. I still prefer what I've read from the past in a lot of cases, but the reality is that without an ability to explore what's currently coming out, I don't even belong in the old books. I don't belong in any of the books, because it would be disingenuous of me to pretend like there isn't an art form still very strong and very alive. With DSTLRY, what we have here are artist-owned concepts, and for me, there's nothing more pure than that. I'm not sure, because I will say that a lot of these books, there is a connecting theme. So let's go ahead and we'll kill the intro. I got my little voiceover package coming up, and then we're gonna get into first impressions for real. Let's do it. Oh, that crisp, refreshing feeling when the stars align and big names come together and something big happens because an entire model of thought is created from proof of concept to completed product on your shelf. That feeling of artistic integrity prevailing, a vision being seen through. Can you remember the last time? Maybe it was not a comic, maybe it was a Hollywood movie that didn't suck. Regardless, what we have here today is a spotlight on a publisher doing something that I can definitely get behind. And I want my fellow artists out there to open their ears up right now. So, first impressions, let's get to it. As a beginner, knowing that there was books that weren't going to fit in my long boxes the same was completely overwhelming. But, I mean, these are bigger than your normal comic books. They are, I believe, double length or more as a minimum. So you do get bang for your buck. Presentation, high quality of art, multiple styles of art too across the books. I have more today's books for the most part. They all have their own unique style, but I will say these two, they do share a unique take on the artwork as far as the shininess, so to speak, of it. It's very well, how should I say it? It's not gritty at all. It almost looks cinematic. But anyhow, the presentation is clearly a high priority, so that I guess I I had to give it a chance because for me that that does speak volumes about the effort. I wanted to know a little bit more about it, and I won't lie. My initial purchases sat on my shelf waiting to be read for quite a while before I actually broke into it. I believe it was, I can't, I'm forgetting his podcast or his weekly review show, but one of my reviewers, when I was still watching him, highlighted this as his pick of the week. And I was really, not every single one of these distillery books was showing up in my shop, but for whatever reason, he sold me on it, on the art, the interior art, and he told me the ending was like, whoa, and so I went and got it, and I decided that I was finally gonna read one of these things. I skipped the ones I already had, and I opened this one up, and I was introduced. This is One for Sorrow, by the way. Jamie McKelvey. What I was initially blown away by was the artwork and how much it felt like a really good, polished animated movie, hand-drawn animated movie. Like still shots from it, all organized in a like almost like a screenplay adapted to a like a graphic novel form of a movie before it actually goes to film. I forget what they call that, a comic book. But we are introduced to a hooded figure with a mask. It's very V for Vendetta. There's a very righteous attitude to this executioner-looking character who is playing a form of, justified execution. So it's a very V for Vendetta opening. And we're introduced to several characters. More than that, obviously. This is based off a story or a poem about a magpie, and this is taking place in something that very much looks like a Jack the Ripper kind of setting. That's a V for Vendetta, type of Jack the Ripper thing going on, and instead of killing ladies of the night, it appears that like the corrupt or those who stood complicit with the corrupt, and there seems to be a very personal issue behind it all, but it's not openly revealed. We're introduced to a bartender. She's got like red hair and just looks like the stereotypical lady heroine, very beautiful, very taking, well endowed, etc. And she's got her own little storyline that she's got going. She's basically the character getting the development and kind of taking the role as like the main party of the story. Then there is also a medium who is completely shrouded, and with mediums, it's like she's you have your skeptics, and as a reader you're kind of wondering if it's like a hoax or real, and there seems to be a really good hoax, let's just say that. It's almost like it's it's almost like it's almost completely spelled out that it's not real. But we are introduced to that medium, and she has a client that she's working with, and there's a little story unfolding with that to kind of basically develop that character without just having quite as much of a role in the story as the red-haired girl. I'm gonna get the name of that red-haired girl. Give me one. Forgive me. So her name is Bess Turner. Yeah, I read this for the first time almost like 9 months ago. It was a really long time ago, and so I briefly reconnected with it, but I didn't want to go into the full read through because I wanted to get the rest of these talked about. And what I can say is that like her story is taking her along, like she has she gets offered a chance to work a poker game, and it's basically a poker game involving some bigwigs of a criminal organization, and so it kind of starts to like unravel that she's actually really happy to be kind of like infiltrating this. She's trying to poke her nose into the business, and you kind of start to suspect that she isn't just like oh, I'm just a pretty bartender. She's placed herself there for a reason. What it ultimately comes down to, and this is going to be a theme with these distillery books, is that they go there or they really take a chance with their concepts and how they present these issue ones. All of them kind of introduce you to the whole story in a way that gets you thinking you got something, but as you turn to the last page, you realize what you thought you had, you weren't like reading between the lines, and you have a completely different story than you thought you did. And what it makes it hard for me, like trying to give you a review here of this, to say that like this is like one of the best issue ones I've ever read, and so was this, and so was this, and so was this, all for that very similar reason, that they just kind of had like a big reveal at the end, a very good cliffhanger that wasn't just leading to the next issue. It was like, that's what this is going to be about, and how it gets set up. I mean, you can see the passion for the art form you can see the expertise and the unapologetic way that they're just not they're not sorry. They're good at what they do, and they're gonna show you, and you're gonna like it, and they're gonna like sit back and be like, I told you. And I think this is a great case for these bigger publishers. Hey, maybe even publisher like Image. They need to get out of the way of their artists, and they need to start treating artists like the royalty that they should be, because this was cinematic. This was better than, as a single issue, this was better than the last 10 movies I've watched. I say that as somebody, I used to love watching movies. I ran out of classics. I ran out of classics. I've been looking for new classics. I can't find them. Then I got here, City Beneath Her Feet. The City Beneath Her Feet. This was another twisty one. You're fed only, you're given a little bit to eat, and it's just enough to just keep you turning the pages and quickly running through the bubbles. What we have is a story. We're introduced to initially, a woman who, seems very, very centered on her looks and has a way about her. She stands out, very much stands out in a crowd. I think we all know someone like that. I have a friend like that. Very much. It was almost like in the live action version, I could like see her almost playing the part, and she's communicating with somebody, and then we're introduced to a second woman who couldn't be any more like the opposite. It's not like that she's like frumpy or anything. It's just that she's, she's not trying to stand out. She's just very grown up dressed, very, very dressed like an adult. And so it almost appears like they're communicating through like an earpiece or like a cell phone. That's how the more the less glamorous looking woman is doing, and the other one seems to have an earpiece in. And it almost seems like it's a very artistic opening, because it almost seems like they're having this conversation, but then you realize that the one woman was having a conversation with somebody else, and she hangs up the phone on them, and she's basically like explaining she got fired, and it just was like not a good call. And then the other one, she's out in the street, she's getting a hot dog, she's kind of casually walking along, she's standing out, and it turns out she's actually talking to this second woman who is real like grim looking. She looks like Sister Abigail from the WWE. Very, very very, very grim. And they're both on either ends of some kind of operation, and what ends up happening is they basically go on a big killing spree out of nowhere, and they seem to be, like either they're working for someone or they're hitmen or hit women. It's not really gonna get explained. What does happen is our main character in this issue, I should say, because I don't who the main character is and who's going to be mostly featured, and who, because I mean, flashbacks are a thing, and that, but what essentially gets put here is just enough story to get you involved with who is mainly going to go forward after this issue. And it's almost like it's like a weird tilt. Like Initially, it's one person up here, and then slowly the issue starts to kind of do one of these. Um, Again, just like the one thing that kind of connects these books in a weird way is that you're gonna get this issue one last page, like, total reinvention of what you thought you were gonna get. This was still rather a good book. The art was a lot more gritty than the more cinematic looking one for Sorrow. Artwork by Elsa Charretier. That is I am having a lot of trouble reading names. And of course, the author of this is James Tynion. It's a page turner, I can tell you that. I opened it up thinking I was gonna just kind of read like a page or two. I wasn't quite ready to read the whole thing, and I ended up standing there in place, feet planted, my coffee getting cold, and I ended up reading the whole thing in one like, you know, motion. Yeah, it definitely got me turning the pages. Am I a little worried that they're trying to be like very M. Night Shyamalan with the endings? I mean, it's issue one. It's issue one. I don't mind something that has such good. It feels like it's like a well-directed picture, in such a way that, you know, my comic shop guy is actually gonna discontinue just having these on the shelf, and it's only special order. And he's like, I can't have a $9 book just sitting there, you know. And I guess that, you know, so they're not selling on impulse, but I mean, these got to start moving on word of mouth. But I just want to say, like, they don't necessarily have to go the M. Night Shyamalan route on everything, you know, like, oh, what a twist. But I'm glad for it. In these particular cases, I'm glad for it. Then we got Chip Zdarsky's White House Robot Romance. Now, I know I claimed to not be a fan of the Marvel mindset currently, that it's just like, let's just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and cancel anything that is even slightly underselling, and let's let people miss out on things they were enjoying when they're enjoying it, and let's keep shoving things in their face that, you know, are just like, who asked for this? And I'm not saying that like echoing everybody else, even though I've heard it. That's me saying that. I've become very, very irritated with Marvel since reconnecting with it. They're one of my favorite comic publishers. I mean, they're iconic for so many reasons, and all those reasons in my mind exist mostly in the 80s. So maybe that's what my relationship with Marvel is gonna, you know, be going forward, outside of, you know, my flagship X-Men. I don't know. I got so much to catch up on, but I had to get to stuff like this. But White House Robot Romance, I mean, even the cover just made me kind of like cringe. It just felt like that idea of just like, hey, let's take a couple different genres and we'll just stick them together and like let's, you know, like zombie dinosaurs, you know. And I didn't know where this came from. I just know that it got praised, and and it had like at my shop they had the little sticker pick of the week. I couldn't understand. I guess I just had to know, like, where is this going? Like, how are they gonna do it? And to be honest with you, I was just thinking about this the other week. I mentioned it in another video, but Matt Walsh, who I don't really watch, he got brought up in another video, a couple videos actually. People were kind of reacting to this opinion he had that monoculture was dead, and as a result, you know, movies and production of movies peaked in like 2008, and then down from there. And he made some good points, but it kind of got me thinking about like animated films and how I haven't really felt like an animated film that felt like perfectly all ages in so long. Oh, and I gotta give credit where it's due. Happy Gilmore 2 was amazing. That was like a time machine back to like when comedies were good. But I'm thinking like the hand drawn Disney stuff that was like coming out in the 90s, and that magic for me, just it has not been there. I think maybe the last great animated movie for me was Toy Story, which was obviously a move in a new direction, but it still captured something that felt so purely Disney as I understood it. What White House Robot Romance does is exactly what you know a, a master production team that you like only Disney could have been back then does with when they or like the Brave Little Toaster. I can't remember who was responsible for that movie, but the way like inanimate objects were able to be brought to life, and we actually felt sympathy, and like I I haven't felt that that's exactly the movie I'm thinking of too. In so long, and then in one just sitting reading this, I was brought back to that exact feeling. And this is by no means a child, like a children, story or anything. I mean, it's not lewd, but it's very much, an intricate plot, and it's also a simple plot. It doesn't, it is not arrogant at all. The artwork, again, is very good. The panels are directed very well. I say directed because it feels that way. There's a warm feeling to the whole story. And this one is a little bit more subtle with the twist. We have two service robots. One is a cook, and one is is like kind of like a bodyguard and poison taster. And because of the poison tasting aspect, he has contact with this cook bot, and they have a strange friendship. And for us, the viewer from the outside, we're looking at this, and we're seeing what seems like an almost organic, love interest start to build. And in reality, there might be some things going on behind the scenes, and some human ones, with some ideas of their own. And it's interesting because you got this aspect of like espionage kind of going on, and okay, so this could be a robot reprogrammed, and they think they're in love. But then what happens when the other robot who was getting about to get decommissioned, and he was totally fine with it because that was his protocol and he felt nothing. What happens when he thinks he's in love too? So this is this is just intriguing storytelling, but it was just good. It was just really well executed. Rachel Stott was an amazing artist. The coloring is perfect. That would be Tamra Bonvian. And I mean, this is I couldn't even tell you. I'm so new, back, like I got a very small list of artists and writers that I'm familiar with, and I know them. I think this is the first time I'm seeing a Zdarsky book, and I'm like, okay, this is Chip Zdarsky. This is what this guy's capable of, and count me in. I'm definitely going to be getting issue 2, and I'll be covering it here. And then most recently we had Endeavor. This is another one of those books. You turn that last page, and you finally know what you're going to be getting. They set the table methodically here. We have a family who just lost the matriarch due to a tragedy that is slowly, progressively, expanded upon throughout issue 1. And it's just a single dad trying to do his best with 2 really, really, really disappointed teenagers. And they're going on this, it's like a vacation trip. It's kind of like a cruise, but a themed cruise after an old ship. It's a replica, but it's a ship that was, it had a doomed voyage, and so like it's kind of like a historical tour. And so they're planning on being out at sea for several weeks, and there's other families and there's other kids, and most of this kind of feels like a coming of age story where a brother and sister are kind of like dealing with friction from some of the other kids, and that's most of what like this is really about, is just kind of setting the table of this small family, and just kind of trying to introduce you to a little bit of our main two kids, we'll call them. I'm sure that the other kids, I think it's 7 total. I'm sure they're all gonna get featured a little bit more than they did in this issue, but they are introduced. It's important to know that, because I don't think I'm really ruining that much if I tell you that kind of the point of this story is that these kids are basically wind up stranded on this boat as the only survivors, and it's like, well, look forward to next issue, and that's once again, it's like you didn't really know that was gonna be where the story went, or what you were gonna get, or what it was all about. This world building to set up this big tip you over moment. Sorry, you thought you knew, but we got you. You got. And so is DSTLRY, like, are they pressing their projects to kind of wow people? I don't know, but it keeps this unfiltered version of comic writing, and is it the best art I've ever seen? I mean, possibly, I don't know, but I've seen equally as good of art in my normal publisher's books. This is just, it's interesting to see the unfiltered talent, though, in the storytelling and the execution. This is about the only thing that really takes me all the way back to the 80s. That quality, that intense quality, the intense quality of like something like Saga Swamp Thing, when Frank Miller, I'm sorry, not Frank Miller, oh gosh, he did Watchmen, Alan Moore, when Alan Moore was doing Swamp Thing. I finally actually completed that run, and I don't know what to say. Like, I that was life changing to know that comic, that run, that specific run with that collective of artists behind it was just wow. And I had the same thing for like the first 7 issues of Sandman. I had a Hellblazer. These comics kind of set the tone for everything, and this is stuff that makes me think the way I thought as a result of reading those. And I just want to say, like, outside of a couple of complaints, which I'm gonna get to. This is awesome. I'm awesome that this is going on. I understand that they've had some trouble due to certain circumstances this time last year. I understand that, you know, running a small independent publishing company and putting this much production into it, this is it's an undertaking and it's a risk, and so I'm really happy, and I want to see more of this. I want to see more little independents, you know, pushing for artistic integrity. But anyway, I got to get into the complaints. All right. As far as what has been difficult about being a DSTLRY fan, when I actually am holding the book in the hand and I'm reading it, absolutely nothing. But what has been troubling for me is the release schedule. They are larger than you do get more pages than you would a normal standard size issue, but it's not enough. This came out over, I think, almost a year ago, or over a year ago already, and we still haven't seen an issue 2. Now I understand that the Diamond bankruptcy that really messed things up for DSTLRY, and so that shut down some production and stuff. I hope that doesn't mean that's a canceled book, but they haven't mentioned anything. There was already an issue 2 announced, and it just never came to be. So it's a status unknown. They have recently said that they're going to be going forward with this. It is issue 2 November, so that would be a quick turnaround by their standards. I'll just kind of, you know, give them one of these and say we'll see. I haven't heard anything about this. I didn't even know if it was going to have a sequel or a sequel issue. But The City Beneath Her Feet does have a like a cliffhanger ending of sorts, or just basically sets up a part 2. They all do. Endeavor, do they list a December? They got this set up for December, and I'll be buying it. I've put all these on my pull list. I'm really excited to get to the next ones. But the release schedule, DSTLRY, I mean, you know, what do we got to do here? What do we got to do to, you know, tighten this up? What do we got to do to get a dialogue going, so that your audience can kind of set their calendar and, you know, anticipate, and then find that book on New Comic Book Day. What can we do? Because I'm dying to know the rest of Jamie McKelvey's story about the magpie, and that, I mean, the ending blew me away. What are we gonna do? So yeah, that's literally the complaint here, is that you get blown away and then, you know, they never call you again. You know what I mean? Like it's not fun to get left hanging like that. So they're not the only publisher, you know, putting things out at a slower rate due to being so independent. You know, and I get that. I get what a big undertaking it is. Like, I don't know, like, what can we get, like a Kickstarter going to like help fund them faster, so we can get a real company that get, you know, like really does care about comics, you know, at the core, and is trying to keep the flame alive, the real flame. But anyhow, that's gonna do it. Literally all as solitary issues. Perfect 5 out of 5s. You know, there's absolutely not a thing wrong with any of them. I'm going to be doing a part 2 on this. I got a little bit wordy, but this was important to me. We're going to be also dipping into White Boat and Blood Brothers Mother. Blood Brothers Mother is a little bit further into the series than, you know, just an issue. They're actually, if you wanted to have a sequential read and see where you know, a proof of concept goes, you know, beyond issue 1, that would be the one to jump on. If you're patient, hopefully in November and December we'll be getting more of White House Robot Romance and Endeavor. This has been Drumboy Reads Slow. Stay tuned for more. I'm trying to expand what I'm bringing, and I'm working on a intro lead-in. I've been editing an intro lead-in, so these videos won't be so like, hi, I'm just sitting here. So, yeah, I've been slacking on the close-ups of the art because, to be honest with you, I think a little sample is really all you need. I'm more here to, you know, express how the books made me feel, and I think that's my best tool to kind of like, you know, hey, I really want you to read this. So, give DSTLRY a shot. It's worth it. If it's in your store, you know, it stinks if you have to pay shipping, but it's worth it. It'll be worth it. And it you know, do a slow compile or read them, you know, greedily read them right as you get them. But this is some of the best reading I've seen in the modern day, and I can't say enough good things. So I definitely need to